Hi everybody, welcome to a new edition of Let's Talk About Education with Antonio Corrales. As you may know, I'm an educator, an entrepreneur, and a professor at the University of Houston Clear Lake. My main goal is to introduce you to pioneers in the field of education and to let you know about topics that you may not be aware of, but you may be interested in. Today, we have the honor to have with us Loretta William Gurnell.
Yes.
She is the founder and director of education of the SUPERGirlsSHINE, a foundation that has been changing the life of many girls for the past years. Thank you so much for being with us today, Loretta.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's an honor, and I'm humbled that you would ask me to come with all the other pioneers that have gone before me. So I'm a pioneer. Wow.
The honor is ours.
Yay.
It's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun.
All right, Loretta, so why don't you let the audience know a little bit about yourself, your career, and how do you get where you are right now?
Oh,
Yeah.
we don't have
I know.
Why did you ask that last one? How did I get where I am right now?
I know.
Oh my goodness, that's a book.
Yeah.
So we'll save it for the book audience. That's a book. But as he mentioned, I am Loretta Williams Gurnell. I am the director of education and founder of SuperGirlsSHINE Foundation. This is a foundation that is near and dear to my heart because we focus on leadership development, character building with the emphasis of STEM. So that's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And so people ask me all the time, Loretta, why STEM? Well, because as a science girl, as a STEM girl, as a super girl in STEM, I believe that science is everything. I believe that science is life. I think that STEM makes the world go around. And when we infiltrate into girls and boys that they can first, they can do and become anything that they want. So as a former educator of 10 years of middle and high school, I've taught on the college level. I've worked in higher ed administration, but nonprofit has always been my heart. I've been in nonprofit management for years prior to that. We have this running joke at our home that my husband wanted me to come out of nonprofit and higher ed because he wanted me to come home so we could start a family. And then I went into education, teaching science. I have a biological sciences degree. So imagine going from that to teaching. I think that now we've doubled the hours, right? People think that you just 8 to 4 and you're done. Not.
It's not how it is.
It does not work that way. So I just like to bring the realistic point of view in reference to how we got here. And so, Antonio, when I was looking at girls, and particularly girls in my classroom, or girls that would come to me and they would say, Mrs. Williams Gurnell, you do this. Oh, Mrs. Williams Gurnell, you wear your hair like this. Or Mrs. Williams Gurnell, you're always dressed this way. Or this and that. And I would say, wow, they're really interested in me as a lady, as a woman. So I have to be careful, right? Because I'm impressionable. I think it's important that when you know that you're in the public, in any facet that you're in, know that you're being watched.
Correct.
And children are impressionable, and we have to be careful what we say, what we do, and how we respond to them. And so one of the things that I loved about the classroom is that I could take my classroom outside. They could learn science on a whole new different level. I pushed those students to another level. I mean, I didn't just teach from the book. I can probably recall on 1 or 2 hands how many times I literally taught from the book.
Right.
Because, again, science is what? Everything. So after, I think in the 6 years that I was in the middle school setting, the last one that I was in that 4th year, going into the 5th year, I just kept feeling, I was like, I've got to do something different here, because what happened, I was doing business consulting through Super Lady Live Movement, and this was workshops and trainings for corporate, nonprofit, but particularly women who wanted to come out of the workforce and start their own career, start their own entrepreneurship, write a book, or become a speaker. And because I've been there, I've traveled singing and recording, I've done speaking, I've done all of that. They wanted to know, how are you doing this and still being able to maintain some sanity?
How were you able to break that barrier and be able to
do this and do it well? Well, one,
being successful at the time.
You have to have a focus, and one, I think that I have 3 non-negotiables: my faith, my family, and my freedom. And so when we prioritize, we can really get more done.
Correct.
I don't balance. I prioritize. I make a decision on what I'm going to do. I stick to it, and I go with it. And so having seen that, the girls would come with their parents. And we would have these conversations on the side. And they would go home and say, well, Miss Loretta said, and Miss Loretta said, and then they would come back. Yes. And they say, Loretta, okay, now, so-and-so has said this. What are you going to do about this? I'm like, I don't know. I don't do girls. I have boys,
exactly.
Right? I don't do girls.
That wasn't your thing.
I didn't think that, right? But then the more questions I would get in the classroom, I would get more questions outside of the classroom. And I said, there's something here. So in my prayer time, in my peace time, I was like, okay, God, what does this look like? I'll have one day. We'll just have we'll call it a Supergirl table talk.
Okay.
Because super lady, we believe that we're super ladies. That we can't be super ladies without raising what? Supergirls. So we called it a Supergirl table talk. We had it one time, and I said, oh, this is nice. Then we had it another time. So 9 months later, we were still having Supergirl table talks.
Wow.
And my husband said, you got to come home. And you got to stop spending so much of our money. What are you going to do about this?
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, he's got a point.
Because at that point you were doing like meetings, organizing different activities for them, right?
And I'm so grateful for my colleagues, because my female colleagues would open up their brick and mortar for us to have these sessions.
And what would you used to talk to them
Oh my
at
goodness.
that particular point?
At that particular point, we were talking about who am I? Self-awareness. I'm talking about peer pressure, how to make good decisions. What is a decision? And does this decision today have an impact on what I do tomorrow or what I can or cannot do tomorrow? So really it was about getting the girl to know who she is.
And what ages do you used to
10
work?
to 17. We've always been 10 to
10
17.
to 17.
We'd have some sisters that were younger because, Miss Loretta can never say no, right?
Exactly.
So they would come, but we would cater the conversation to 10 to 17.
Okay.
And we found that most of our girls were middle school girls. The most impressionable years, right?
All right.
The most challenging years, or the most opportunities to do things right or do things wrong.
All right.
So what I found in that whole tenure of that, coming out of that 9 months, I realized we were onto something. I had Shine reps. So they were young ladies who were between the ages of 21 and 27. So they were young enough to relate, but old enough to be able to stand and be able to have authority in that space. And then I mentored them, and then they mentored the girls.
Interesting.
So it was a tier effect, and I love it. So I'm considered a super lady. I am the super lady, right? But then my age group is super ladies, and we have the super young ladies who mentor super girls.
So it's a generational.
It is.
Pass the torch. But it's interesting that you talk about that, and because research tells us overwhelmingly that there is a gap between females and males on STEM careers. And you were talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There is a gap, and a lot of people blame this gap on a systemic unconscious discrimination between males and females. And when I mean unconscious, I don't mean that educators are doing that on purpose. I'm talking of female educators, male educators. But somehow, some way, female teenagers are not feeling embraced or encouraged to pursue those careers. And the sad part is that you and I know that the big majority of jobs within the next 10 years are going to be STEM education.
Oh, yes.
Did you see that gap in there? Did that motivated you to pursue this?
It definitely did. The last educational school that I was in, I actually went to my principal and said, we have to have a lab. They had never had a lab in the history of the school.
Wow. And
I'm talking about a lab that I used to teach in on a high school level.
Okay.
So I can say that I have a legacy there. There's a state-of-the-art laboratory there. And we had more exercises and labs, hands-on experiences in that lab that brought science to life, brought math to life. I would team up with our math teacher and say, okay, this is what we're teaching this coming week or this coming month. What math problems are you working on? The algebraic. Do I need to freshen up on some skills to make sure that I'm presenting them the same way that you are teaching in the class? Because what I didn't want to happen is I teach one way, then they go to math and they learn in a different way. And now they feel like math and science are not sister and brother.
Correct.
And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to integrate versus divide. And so that was really huge. But I think one important thing is that the girls saw me, a lady who loved science.
Correct.
And so for that...
A role model.
Oh, well, okay. If you say that. I'm right. I'm a role model. But I really, A
successful role model, because I think one of the biggest issues that we see out there, we have mentorship, but for ladies, and for males too. But it's important that you can see that somebody similar than you was able to make it in that particular field.
Exactly.
And so I think that started making a difference in what you were doing.
And one of the things is that I was, I'm a mother of sons, right? So I would tell my male students, I said, you know that I'm hard on you because you're going to be someone's, husband one day. And I have sons at home. And so you already know Mrs. Williams Gurnell expects the world from you because I love boys, right? I live with boys.
That's fun.
But the girls, I expected from them too. And I didn't allow them to make excuses. And it was a normal thing for me, which is quite interesting. I think I got that from my mother.
So you didn't lower expectations with females?
No, I did not.
It was the same expectation for everybody?
It was the same. And their parents could say to this day that I was definitely consistent across the board with my expectations. I had an expectation for each and every one of my students, no matter what your deficiency was, whatever the state level said it was. I knew that with the way that I taught and the way that I cared, that you could give me your best every day if you wanted it.
So you brought that mentality to the Super Ladies.
I did.
Super Lady Shine.
I did. And so the interesting thing, so having the classroom experience and working with girls, having the classroom, if you will, outside experience, working with girls who were a part of were girls of my clients, I said we're onto something. Girls are wanting more. They're hungry. So what can we do to create this environment where, one, it's safe for them to communicate.
Correct.
Two, they feel like they can actually win. They can actually be successful. And three, they can see, as you said, ladies who look like them, whether they're African American, Anglo American, Asian American, Latina American, whatever it is, we diversify it because a lady is a lady. But there were more girls who looked like me in the particular areas in which I taught. So when they saw me and they saw other ladies who were entrepreneurs that looked like them, it made them think, maybe I can do this too.
Now, let me ask you this, Laura. Do you sugarcoat it for them? And what I mean by that is facts tell us, when you look at numbers, it's a reality.
And they don't lie.
The odds are against them.
Yes.
In terms of against the girl. I mean,
Right.
because, out of all the available jobs in the STEM field, 80% goes to males.
Yes.
So do you have a conversation with them in terms of, listen, you have the odds against you, it's about you to get it done and break those barriers?
I am so glad that you asked me that question, is because one of the things is that there are no excuses. There are no excuses. If you can, you can, right? So it's interesting that this year is the revealing the leader in you. That's our theme.
Okay.
So when we talk about STEM, just for example, this past Saturday, we had our Leading Ladies and Girls Empowerment Tea. There were ladies in the STEM area, there were attorneys, there were physicians, there were PhDs, there were domestic violence, there were educators. I mean, there was a plethora, nonprofit leaders that were leading ladies. The difference is that when you look at STEM in the totality, and this is one of the things that I want our community as a whole abroad to really look at STEM as a way for conversation.
Actually, I would say the nation.
I would say the world.
Yeah.
Just as a way of conversation, because one of the things that I keep hearing from girls over and over, Mrs. Williams Gurnell, if I was in the classroom or if I'm in the foundation, they say, Miss Loretta, science is hard. I'm not good at math.
Correct.
And I asked them, well, why aren't you good? Because it's just a skill. It's just a skill. So you're telling me that you can braid your hair, which is physics. You can process your hair with perm.
Those connections.
Oh, yes. You can process your hair with perm, which is chemistry. You can actually design an actual outfit, cut up jeans, which is math, because you have to have angles. I mean, so when I actually share with them, when I put it in that perspective, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it is. Science methodology. It's like every day, unless you're wearing a uniform, and then sometimes it's still a methodology. You have to choose what you want to wear.
It's interesting.
So when you think about practicality of learning, remember, that's the goal, is for us to be able to share with any learner, whether it's male or female, that if you make it practical, you make it applicable, and you make it relatable to where they are, meet them where they are, they can learn any skill. We have to stop mandating, putting this type of stereotype on girls or boys, saying that they can't in certain areas because of their background, their socioeconomic, their ethnicity. If you knew my story, we wouldn't be sitting here. right? If you knew a lot of the ladies that we work with, they wouldn't be sitting in the places that there are. And so when you get a young lady who can see that there is a STEM leader who came from a single parent home, who did not have a chance to go to college because she didn't have the income to be able to go, but she focused in school and she earned a scholarship. She had to pay for her room and board, but she earned the academic portion to be able to go to school. When you hear those stories, why can't you do it? It's a skill. And so what I want our parents, and I want our parents to become more involved too. And I think parents have a big difference on the way a girl sees and views herself, especially a father, whether it's a male figure or whomever. If the male figure steps up and actually has an intricate relationship with that girl, it changes how she drives and moves in the world, because she knows that she has a covering. And it's a difference. I mean, with me, there are places that I go now because I know I have a covering in my husband, right? It's just natural for me to go because I feel like my husband has my back, my boys have my back, and I go.
But before we go to parents, let's retake your story. So you start meeting with the girls. How do you get to the foundation part?
Good. So we met with the foundation. So what happens? We had this. We met with the girls at Supergirl Table Talk.
Okay.
So after my husband said, "I need you back home, and I need you to stop using all of our money," right? That was real important. I went to my colleagues and I said, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen are an intricate part of the foundation because of the male perspective."
That's important that you clarify it, because when you hear SuperGirlsSHINE, males may feel discriminated in terms of, and it's totally the opposite.
It's totally opposite with us. We want males to be on our board.
Right.
We want males to be in our impact circle, because when a girl sees a positive male and he speaks to her in a certain way, he builds her because of who she is and the skills that she has earned and learned.
And encourage her to
pursue those careers. There's nothing she can't do.
Correct.
She's unstoppable.
Correct.
She's unstoppable. And we want that, right?
Correct.
We want her to grow with that type of encouragement and also that confidence. So I went to my colleagues and I said, "Look, Severin said, I got to stop spending our money. Yeah. And we got to do something. Are we going to have a foundation or what?" Every person I went to, not only helped us write the articles, but gave for the foundation. We submitted our articles in December 2015. We were awarded our 501c3 March 10, 2016. We will celebrate 2 years, March 10, 2018. And we have been featured on Fox 26 News. We've been consistent in our curriculum. We've implemented Supergirl Shine clubs. And the Supergirl Shine Club is I won't say the replacement of the table talk, but it allows us to meet more girls. Because what happened was, remember, we were all over the place having these table talks. So the parents would bring them. I'd have to meet them this Saturday, this place, and this Saturday, this place. But I said, how can I duplicate? How can I reach more girls? Take the same concept and put it in schools.
Make it massive.
So if there are schools out there who are looking for a program that can actually help your girls from October to May, we come in once a month. We deal with the leadership, the character building, the self-awareness, and then we bring in the STEM. So we either bring in the STEM professionals, or with our partnership with UACL now, we actually take the girls to the campus and they have an all-day experience once or twice a year within that school year.
College readiness awareness.
College readiness, but more importantly, they're in the labs. They're doing robotics. They're real. They're working. And the professors, we thank you, because they are donating their time and their talents and their thinking to help these girls be able to say, I can do this too.
That is amazing. Now, sideways a little bit, in terms of what you do.
Yes.
Having the experience working in pre-K through 12 environments.
Yes.
And now working in a full, almost like a full-time in a non-profit foundation. Can you tell the audience a little bit how that dynamic looked like? I mean,
my goodness.
Working in how does a day from Loretta, Williams, Gurnell look like in terms of, the dynamics when you compare it with, a regular public school or a higher ed?
I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people ask me, Loretta, how have you, and it's not just me, you know that, right? So I have a board, I have volunteers, I have an impact circle, and then I have community partners that I open my mouth and ask. So I don't have a problem, because I believe you have not, because you ask not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that I can truly say is When we sat down and we actually wrote the articles for this foundation, I shared with the team, ladies and gentlemen, I've been in business for, at that time, 3 years. And I've seen the struggles of building a business and entrepreneurship. I do not want this foundation to struggle. So we have to put in strategies and we have to put in the framework for us to be able to stand on our own. If something happens to me or any of us, that this foundation will be able to continue for generations and generations.
So you develop like a strategic plan.
Exactly.
For the foundation.
And so the thing is that we looked at the first year. What did we want to accomplish in the first year? We looked at the second year. So we literally, in my business, we have this three tier principle. It's called build, grow, profit. And literally, you build your foundation, you grow your relationships, and then you profit. Correct. That could be from finances, that could be with sponsorships, partnerships, but you have to have a sure foundation. Because otherwise, you already know it's going to crumble. And then once that foundation is built, then it's easy to grow relationships because the relationships won't be one-sided. You won't always have your hand out. You'll be able to give and receive because you'll have a solid foundation. People will call you and say, what can I do for you, or how can you help us?
Correct.
Because you have a sure foundation. And one of the things I really want to encourage nonprofit leaders or ones who are interested in starting a foundation, take your time. You have to write the vision and you have to make it plain, because otherwise what will happen is you'll just be an event, project, program person. You'll be doing lots of things, but you won't make impact.
Correct.
And so when we look at every single experience, because we don't call them events, we call them experiences. Every experience, whether it's a Supergirl Shine Club, whether it's the Leading Ladies in Tea, Leading Ladies and Girls Empowerment Tea, whether it's the Leading Ladies in, the panel discussion plus art and STEM, whatever it is, if it's a Supergirl Shine experience, they're all experiences. And we want to know, what's the goal for this experience? How many girls do we want to impact? What's the purpose, and what do we want them to take away from this? They have to take away at least 3 tangible either resources or thought, something that helps them change their mind. And then how are we going to follow up?
Interesting.
You have to, but when you don't stop and plan, because see, one of the things we as human beings, we're givers, especially women, right? We've been told that all of our lives. But one of the challenges is, as a nurturer, you have to nurture well. But you have to nurture yourself first. And so if you don't take care of you and you don't take care of what God has given you, it's going to crumble.
Correct.
It's going to crumble. So follow-up is everything. I don't want us to just having a good experience, Antonio.
Correct.
I want the girls to change their lives.
Correct.
When they walk away, I want them to start thinking about, Miss Ashley said, if the person that I want to be involved in doesn't bring me value, then I don't need to be involved with them.
Correct.
If Miss Loretta says, remember, you're a receiver and a giver. So if you're in a relationship, whether it's male, female friends, where they are not pushing you to be better, that's not healthy for you. If you are always saying that I can't, we've got to teach you that you can. Because in order for you to be open up to receive that science and math, engineering, physics, technology, you name it, geology, is nothing but a skill, you'll never get past that hurdle. So when we talk about education impact, when we talk about parental impact, we've got to change our words, what we say to our children, how we think of them, how we view the environments, what are they putting inside of their ears.
I was going to ask you that. What recommendations do you have for administrators, educators that may be looking at us right now and listening to this conversation? What specific recommendation do you have for them in terms of curriculum, parental involvement, outreaching, entities like yours to improve the performance of their female teenagers in their schools?
The first thing is that if it's a male or female administrator, remember what it was like being in middle school. I think a lot of times we forget that we went past that. We went through that, right? And some of our middle school opportunities were very challenging. So if we could just remember that we too were 12, 13, 14, I think that would actually help us to remember, what was I going through at that time? And think about the challenges that I had. And now think about, it's 2018. This world is so open and right in their hands that they are exposed to things that I never thought I would be exposed to,
Right.
right? Let alone at 12, 13, 14. So the first thing is that remember that you were a child once.
Right.
The second thing is look at effective communication that best meets your environment. Every school is not going to communicate the same way. Some parents don't have email. Some parents may only have text. Some parents may have a high school level, a college level, a high school education, a college level. There's some parents that may have just completed their elementary or their middle school. We have to get to know our parents. We have to open it up. Now, one thing I will say is we have to have boundaries, and you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. If you're going to run a school, you need to run a school. If the parents are going to parent, the parents need to parent. But how can we come to the table to do what's best for our child or our student? And the best way that we can do that is to stay in our roles.
All right.
That's the first thing. I think a lot of times parents try to jump into the administrator role, and the administrator role tries to jump in the parent role. That's a problem because now the child is torn back and forth. And also, healthy communication at home. If you have a concern with the parents, don't bring that up in front of students at the school. If parents have a concern with administration, with teachers, don't bring that up at home. Because what happens, the student comes back to the classroom and he or she thinks that, oh, my mother doesn't think anything about this teacher, so why should I?
Correct.
And now you've broken down the opportunity for that teacher to be able to empower, to teach, to take your child to another level. The next thing is hold the parents accountable. When our program, and this is what I love, for every Supergirl Shine Club, our parents have to volunteer. We call them the Parent Empowerment Team. They give 25 hours to the foundation, whether it's through our experiences, whether it's being a lead on our parent empowerment team, making calls, doing research, opening doors, whatever, because this is a partnership.
All right.
We're not a babysitting service.
All right.
I'm volunteering to empower your daughter. So we're in partnership. And when we're in partnership, you have to be able to give, and I have to be able to give.
And you made them sign contracts?
And they sign a contract. It's a start. It's at the beginning of the actual club, right from the beginning. And then also we open up for communication. I also ask them, what is it that you would like to see? We have a set curriculum, but maybe there are some topics that we just may need to explore because the times are changing.
All right.
And then also for the demographics, you have to be flexible. We have a set curriculum for the Supergirl Shine Club, right? But depending on what school environment, we have to change it or shift it a little depending on the demographics.
Correct.
Because the conversation has to be different if you're in certain areas. And you have to be careful that you do not re-traumatize girls or boys with the words that you use or the scenarios that you have.
Correct.
And so you have to be careful. And I will say this last thing is that remain a student of the game. If you're an administrator or a parent, if your child is the most important person in this particular scenario, in this relationship, remain a student. Be involved. Go up to the school unexpectedly and show your child that you care. Just visit maybe 1 or 2 periods. You can take off work. Parents, you can take off work. I know it's hard because I was there. But when you show up, I promise you those conversations will go forever. My boys talk about me coming to their school from kindergarten, and one is in the 7th and one is in the 5th grade. And my oldest tries to be cool now because he's a middle schooler, right? He says, Mommy, you can drop my food off. So you want me to change my day to drop your food off, but I can't come in? Okay, you can come in just for a little bit. All right, give me the little bit because you're still my babe, right?
Yes, yes.
If I'm going to change my day, is that fair? But he talks about it, and his friends say, oh, there's so-and-so's mom. She came up here. She's at the game.
That involvement makes a difference.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, Loretta, to kind of close it up and finalize, can you let the audience know a little bit about your latest projects that you're working and how can they contact you? And, of course, I want to tell our viewers that I'm going to post Loretta Williams' Gurnell information at the end of the video, but I want to give you the opportunity to share with your audience, what are your latest projects that you're working How can they reach you, and any final message that you have
Wonderful.
for them?
The one thing we'd like to say is the best way to reach us is go through our website. Go look at the content on our website. It's www.supergirlshine.com. And Supergirls is with an S, so supergirlshine.com. And there is an opportunity for you to fill in the email. You'll stay connected. We'll put you in our database. But more importantly, when you see an experience on our page, for example, on February the 17th, we have our Super Ladies in STEM plus Art panel discussion at the University of Houston Clear Lake. We want to expose girls to more. And the only way that we can expose girls to more is if we're involved. So we talked about the Supergirl Shine Club that happens in the schools. But what about all those other girls that we're not touching because they're not in school? We try to create experiences throughout the year to make sure if we're not in their school yet, right? Mm-hmm. If we're not in their school yet, that's a hint because you can ask. Then we want to have experiences for the girls to connect with us. On last Saturday, we had the Leading Ladies and Girls Empowerment Tea. February 17th, we'll have the STEM plus Art panel discussion. In March, we'll do a girls and a women's History Month. It'll be through social media. And then in April, we have the Biz of Money Matters. We're excited about that. It's the M of our STEM. So it's a day of all money. So what is money? How does it work? How can you invest it? How do you save it? And we're partnered and sponsored by Houston Money Week. So you definitely want to be a part of that one. And then that's April. Then May, we'll do a wrap-up. Okay. A wrap-up is the end of the year. And then in June, we have our Supergirl Shine experience, where with this year, the Revealing the Leader in You, it's all going to be, how can I become, well, first of all, what is a leader? Right. What makes a great leader? And then how can I become a great leader in these areas of STEM? So we're going to have ladies there who actually are leaders in STEM. And then we're going to walk through different exercises. They're going to talk about shadowing opportunities, internships, scholarships, all of those things. And then we are doing summer sim camps in a partnership, yes, right? Yes. So if you are a mother, if you're a father, if you're an administrator, and you say, you know what, I have some girls who really need to be empowered, but maybe this is not the year for us to be able to partner with Supergirl Shine Foundation, with the club, but you say, you know what, we're going to email you or we're going to send that information. Please contact us. We would love for them to come and experience the Supergirl Shine Foundation, and then we would love to set up a meeting with you so that we can come in and talk about our club and how we can actually help you garner the funds to be able to finance the club in your school for 2018-2019 year. Early planning is always better. People who are good stewards plan, right? And we want to be efficient and good stewards of our time, our tenth, and our talent. So if you reach out to us at www.supergirlshine.com, we will definitely reach back out to you, because Supergirl Shine and Supergirls lead and Supergirls in STEM.
Thank you so much, Loretta.
You're welcome.
And viewers, remember that we're at the YouTube channel, Antonio Corrales, Starting Evaluation and Assessment. Let's talk about education with Antonio Corrales. Stay tuned and see you next time.
Thank you.
It's